How well do you know the law? Do you know your rights? Do you know your wrongs? Here's a program that will keep you in the know of the law. Tune into Styles FM this and every Monday, Wednesday and 5:05 p.m. with your host, DG Angel, and get legal minded. Remember, ignorance is no excuse of the law. So be in the know of the law. Sponsors of In the Know of the Law are Native Audio Stage and Lighting, Braham's Texaco.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another program of In the Know of the Law. Don't touch that dial, because when you return, you shall know the law.
Yes, sir, me. A long time I tell them I'm afraid of nobody.
T-Wiz Records.
Yes, sir, me. So right now, nobody can stop me from that. Me as a DJ, but a thing what everybody afraid of. As far as me know, long as me remember. If you're born and you grow up in a Jamaica, you know what nobody call you not informer. But yes, sir, me. Very proud informer. Me not do it for myself, but for Jamaica. You see me, must be an informer. Me have to make the sacrifice to make the place safer. You see me, must be an informer. Me have a number for the sergeant, the inspector. You see me, must be an informer. And if me can't get this out, me call commissioner. Me an informer because me not support the crime. If you do the crime, do the time, pay the fine. Crime is smashing up this country and we acting like we're blind. We should have put a stop into this.
Good evening, everyone. Well, I should say good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again for joining us for another program of In the Know of the Law. My name is Nicholas Chambers, and I am sitting in by myself this evening. My co-host, Delrose Green, Sergeant of Police, is not here this evening, but she sends her love, and she hopes that everyone will remain safe and healthy in this time. I want to thank everyone for joining, whether you're joining from here in Jamaica, whether you're joining from the UK, the US, or anywhere else in the world. We thank you for taking the time to listen to our program this evening, and especially in light of the many concerns that exist with our current health system. I want to thank my sponsors who have made this program possible, and to my contributors. Sponsors Native Audio Stage and Lighting Entertainment, Braham's Texaco, MT Landscaping Services at Francis Lewis Boulevard in Queens, New York City. And to our contributors, Toys Nail, shop number 6, Rosemary Plaza in Mount Bay, St. Thomas, Errol Barnes from Baltimore, USA. Thank you very much for continuing to support the program so that we can continue to educate our listeners on the law. As everyone will know, the current situation that has commanded our attention over the past few weeks is the coronavirus, COVID-19. And it has sent panic, shock, and awe, and in some areas of the world, despair among our global citizens. I want to use this medium to implore our listeners to practice good hygiene, to encourage others to practice good hygiene, and to ensure that we all play our part in stymieing the march of the COVID-19 virus. It requires some simple things. It requires that we sanitize our hands on a consistent basis. If we come in contact with any public facilities, doors in particular, handshakes, sanitize your hands. It is advised that we avoid handshakes, hugs, kisses, and those other and any other social contact during this time. It is also advised that we refrain from touching our face, or nose, or eyes. I was speaking with a colleague today, and my colleague said to me it is one of the hardest things not to touch your face, particularly when you know that you ought not to be touching your face. And it's true. For some reason, once you tell yourself that you should not touch your face, the nose itch, the eyes itch, the entire face itches for some strange reason. And I think perhaps most of it is our mind, but it does happen. But we have to resist the temptation. Alicia, thank you for joining. We have to resist the temptation of touching our face, particularly when we have come in contact with public objects. We must keep a safe distance from others. Cassidy making sure that he's not even sitting too near to me. Stand up. And he's gone very far to the corner of the room. Yes, but we have to practice some social distancing, it is called. It might be difficult. It will be strange and quite awkward in many cases. Speaking personally, it is quite awkward not to extend my hands to my clients. It's quite awkward not to extend my hands to my associates. It's very awkward not to extend my hand to my colleagues. But we must practice in this present situation to refrain from doing so. The last news I heard, we had 15 cases. And all the reports that I have heard is that these are imported cases. And therefore, we have to make a concerted effort to ensure that there is no local spreading of the virus. And so, while we do not want anyone to be discriminated against, and we have to be vigilant to guard against any kind of discrimination that might creep up on us in our actions, in our speech, in our behavior. We have to be vigilant to guard against discrimination. We have to be vigilant to guard against xenophobia. We have to be vigilant to guard against racism. We have to be vigilant to guard against hate and dislike. Because any of those that creeps upon us and enters our everyday view and life is going to cause problems for how we socialize. And so while we are careful and while we take all precautions that are necessary to ensure that we protect ourselves, our families, and our friends, we must ensure that we still keep a compassionate heart, that we maintain our empathy for others, and that we continue to make sure we are our brothers' keepers. If you know anyone that is exhibiting symptoms of the virus, there are numbers. If you yourself, you believe are exhibiting symptoms of the virus, there are numbers. Please do not run to the health center. Do not run to the hospital, because you might just infect someone if it is that you really do have the virus. And so we must all ensure that even if we are the ones who we suspect have the virus, that we call 1-888-1-LOVE. And I believe that there are some other numbers that can be called. And are these the numbers? Oh, there are some other numbers that you can call to the Ministry of Health to get assistance with any suspected cases of the virus. This evening, I want to discuss the Quarantine Act. I'm sure for those who have been listening, you would have heard the Minister of Health, that's Mr. Christopher Tufton, the Honorable Christopher Tufton, referred to this act a lot. And it is an act that is supported by other pieces of legislation, as was outlined by the Attorney General, the Honorable Marlene Malahou Fort. But this evening, I want to discuss what this Quarantine Act is. Many of us would have heard the announcement by the Prime Minister, supported by other members of the government, referring to quarantining, a quarantine of the Bull Bay community. And many of us would have heard on newscasts, subsequent newscasts, of the life of those persons who have been quarantined and how they are coping with being quarantined. And so I want to have a look at that act this evening. So it is called the Quarantine Act. It came into effect, I believe, in 1951, I believe. And we're going to just look at some of the provisions. I invite everyone who is listening both on my WhatsApp platform and my Facebook page to send me your comments if there are any concerns that you have in respect of the virus. Send us your comments. If you have suggestions, send us your comments and let us have a discussion. As I go through the act, if you have any queries, questions, please send those so that we may have a discussion on those concerns. Kamoy from Sunning Hill in St. Thomas, thank you for joining. I want to thank Janine Mitchell, Alicia Bailey for joining on our Facebook platform. And let us get right into it. There is hereby established a quarantine authority which shall consist of a chairman and 4 other members to be appointed in accordance with the provisions of this section. The minister shall appoint the chief medical officer or a principal medical officer to be the chairman, and 4 other members, one of whom shall be representative of the interest of shipping, and another of whom shall be representative of the interest of airways. So you see where the mind of the legislators are, or ports of entry: shipping, airways. The members shall hold office apart from the chairman for a period not exceeding 3 years. The minister may appoint any person to act in place of the chairman or any other member of the quarantine authority. And any member of the authority may at any time resign his office by instrument in writing addressed to the chairman. The appointment, removal, death, departure, or departure from the island or resignation of any member of the act of the authority shall be notified in the Gazette. And it speaks of the incorporation of the authority, which I don't believe we have to go into here. It says that the quarantine authority shall meet at such times as may be necessary or expedient for the transaction of business. And it goes on to some other procedures when the authority meets. It also says at Section 6 that the Governor General may appoint health officers, visiting officers, quarantine guards, and such other employees as may be deemed necessary for the proper carrying out of the provisions of this Act. Health officers, visiting officers, quarantine guards, people who are going to come to your house if there is a suspected case of the virus, they will visit and have a look around, particularly where someone is going to be quarantined in their own residence. The visiting officers will come to see whether or not the premises are appropriate. The minister may make regulations, and I'm at Section 7, as respects the whole or any part of the island, including the ports and coastal waters thereof, for preventing a danger to public health from ships or aircraft, or persons or things therein arriving at any place. So the minister can make regulations in respect of ships that enter our ports and airlines that enter our ports. Sadie from York Castle. Hi, Sadie. How are you? Long time haven't heard from you. Mr. Good evening, Mr. Chambers. I'm here hanging on, my dear. Just got off the farm. Reap and dry peas and planning to put in some more Thursday. Okay. That's good to hear, Sadie. I like when persons are involved in farming, and it's always rewarding when you plant your items and it comes to fruition and you can enjoy the benefits of it. I pray that you will be shielded from predial larceny and any other acts. And I hope, Sadie, that you and your family will stay safe during this period. So the minister can make regulations as respect any part of the island or the entire island, and when it comes on to danger to public health from ships or aircrafts or persons or things arriving at any place, and B, the spread of infection by means of any ship or aircraft about to leave any place, or by means of any person or thing about to leave any place in any ship or craft. Without prejudice to the generality of the powers conferred by subsection 1, regulations under that subsection may, for the purposes therein, make provision for all or any of the following matters: the collection and transmission of epidemiological and sanitary information, the signals to be displayed by ships or aircraft, the questions. Now, this is important in light of the challenges that many countries have been having with ships, with cargo lines across the world. Shipping companies and docking persons who may have come from countries who have high rates of the COVID-19 virus. We have heard of the challenges that the Minister of Health, Tourism, and other ministers of government have had with turning away certain cruise lines. Not turning them away, preventing them from docking at our ports, and the subsequent retaliation by some of those airlines, some of those shipping companies that has said that they are going to withdraw from docking at our ports. But I will say that the minister have had some amount of vindication, because a number of shipping lines have closed down their service, have refused to take any new booking, and in fact have said they won't be sailing. So I believe that there was some vindication. You see, folks, while we must be mindful to ensure that the economy continues apace after the passing, because this too shall pass, after the passing of COVID-19, while we have to remember that there's life after COVID-19, there is a duty on the state to ensure that the public is not unduly exposed to the virus. And if that means stopping cruise lines from entering our ports, if it means putting in stringent measures to ensure that passengers from cruise lines do not carry the virus to our shores, then I'm all for it. Because every good deed, on many occasions, will come with some teething pains. And the world is in uncharted waters right now, where many restaurants, many business places, many countries are going into lockdown. The entire county of New Rochelle has gone into lockdown. The National Guard, has been put into commission by a number of states. New York nonetheless. And so it is important, and I support the government's efforts in its entirety to safeguard the people of this country, even if some special interest will be affected by those decisions. Because you see, we can't be only concerned with the special interest groups. We must be more concerned with the health and welfare of the people of Jamaica. But I digress. I am at section 7 of the Quarantine Act, and it says that the minister can make regulations in respect of the signals to be displayed by ships or aircraft, the questions to be answered, and information, oral or documentary, to be supplied by masters, commanders, and other persons who are or have been on board any ship or aircraft, or are desirous of boarding any ship or aircraft. So this act empowers the Minister of Health to require the information, to require information from cruise lines who wish to dock at our ports. And that information must state that it is safe for the particular shipping line to dock at our ports. Juanita in California says the shipping company threats are only temporary, because when the coronavirus blows over, the demand for persons wanting to visit Jamaica will be overwhelming, and they will have no choice but to resume business as usual. They are only throwing out empty threats because no one will take them in, and they pick on little Jamaica, but we are little but Talaba. Okay. I agree with you, Juanita. At some point, the threats must become empty threats, and we must stand our ground and say, absolutely not, you're not coming in. The detention of ships or aircraft and of persons and things that are or have been on board them, yes. So the minister is empowered under this act So if you're coming from countries that have the coronavirus, the minister is empowered to detain you. And you have heard the minister says that persons are quarantined for 14 days once they are coming from certain countries to ensure that they are free of the virus. The destruction of things which are or have been on board ships or aircraft. So yes, if a particular thing may cause the virus to, the rate of the spread of the virus to increase, coming from any cruise ship or aircraft, we can destroy it. This act empowers the minister through its agents to destroy any such thing. The duties to be performed by masters, commanders, and other persons who are or have been on board ships or aircraft, or who are desirous of boarding any ship or aircraft, authorizing the making of charges and providing for the recovery of expenses. And you have heard the minister talk about charging persons. Yes? Especially persons who attempt or have escaped quarantine. But you know, Cassidy, I don't understand. What is this escape attempt? Escaping. I found it so ludicrous. What are you escaping? The chance to get better? That's what you're escaping? I couldn't fathom it. But we're going to take a break, listeners. I didn't even realize I've overrun my half-hour break. Let's take a break, make some money, and return.
Me tired of you on this pop down jalapeno, you know. Watch there, we all run out of gas now.
What babes? Me think the quarter tank could have carried from Kingston come to Port Antonio. Boss man, which part round here is the nearest gas station there?
Yeah man, right at the road man. Graham's Texaco right at the there.
So bossy, me can get one cup of coffee, one hot dog, anything for eat round here?
Lady, you know hear me say? Graham's Texaco, everything up there.
Braham's Texaco service station and convenience store. Located at Arbor Street, Port Antonio, Long Bay, Portland, 24 Queen Street, Morant Bay, Gale St. Mary. Proud sponsor of In the Know of the Law.
For complete auto repairs and services, come to Akon Auto Technology, located at 33 Bumble Crescent, Port Antonio, Jamaica. We offer specialist services in wheel alignment and wheel balancing, brake drum and disc rotary servicing, state-of-the-art ultrasonic cleaning and testing of your fuel injectors. We also stock an assorted range of auto service parts, tires, and motorcraft batteries. If we don't have it, we will source it for you. Call us at 876-715-5205 or email akonautotech16@gmail.com. Akon Auto Technology, beyond the typical auto mechanic shop. Hardcore Twang Master Swag, the ultimate party animal broke-out drink.
Made from real Jamaican rum and fruit juice.
Flavors available: June plum, sorrel, fruit punch, orange, and pineapple.
Swag, like a party animal. Best consumed over ice. Must be 18 years and older to drink. Drink responsibly. Contact us today at 876-348-6183 for more information.
Native Audio Stage and Lighting, now offering stage, lighting, and truss systems for your small and medium-sized events. Whether it's a stage show, concert, drama play, wedding, street party, or club setting, you name it, we'll bring it to life. Call us at 871-5212 or 844-6531. Native Audio Stage and Lighting, a sponsor of In the Know of the Law with Sergeant Delrose Green, and also Real Talk with Lady Cleo and Daddy Rude.
Welcome back again to our program here, In the Know of the Law. We are discussing the Quarantine Act. We are looking at the powers that the Act bestows on the minister and his agents and the things that should be observed under this Act. Before we took the break, I was just asking about this escape from a quarantine facility by someone who was quarantined. It's like going to the hospital. You have a serious illness and you go to the hospital. And the doctor said, boy, you know, we're going to keep you for observation. And when the doctor turns his back, you jump through the window and run. I just don't get it. I thought he would have gone there to get better, but this gentleman thought it was wise to jump out of this place, to run out of this place. And I don't know where he thought he was going to run to, but anyway. The minister might also make regulations to confer on appropriate officers of powers to board ships and aircraft and to enter premises. And you would have heard the minister speak about our health officers boarding a certain ship and discovering that there was one crew member who were showing signs of the illness, and that was never disclosed to us. Well, this act empowers the minister to empower other persons to board these airlines and to board these vessels to see whether or not they are safe to dock in our ports. I want to now move to Section 9 of the Act. And Section 9 says, and this is where we are now, and the actions that have been taken by the minister. This section in particular plays an important role in the actions that have been taken by the minister so far. Donna from Highgate, thank you for joining. Thank you for checking in with us, and we hope that you will continue to enjoy the program. Section 9 of the Act says, when in the opinion of the Quarantine Authority, an emergency exists, the Quarantine Authority may, by order of that emergency, the Quarantine Authority may, by order, direct special measures to be taken during the continuance of that emergency for any of the purposes specified in sections 7 and 8, and any such order shall have effect notwithstanding anything to the contrary in any regulation or rules in force by virtue of those sections. Yes? So in case of any emergency, the minister is empowered, the Quarantine Authority is empowered to make some orders and to take some special measures. Now, Section 10 says any person who refuses to answer. Now, this is important, and I want everyone to listen, because we might find it inconvenient at any particular time when an officer, medical officer, might show up and ask questions or may need to enter our premises. And we have to be careful. Ensure that anyone who show up at your door and says they are medical officers, before letting anyone into your house, listeners, ensure that these persons are actually who they say they are. Yes, make a few calls. Now, any person who refuses to answer or knowingly gives an untrue answer to any inquiry made under the authority of this Act, or intentionally withholds any information reasonably required of him by any officer or other person acting under the authority of this Act, or knowingly furnishes to any such officer or other person any information which is false, or refuses or willfully omits to do any act which is required to do by this Act, or refuses or willfully omits to carry out any lawful order, instruction, or condition made, given or imposed by any officer or other person acting under the authority of this Act, or assaults, resists, willfully obstructs, or intimidates any officer or other person acting under the authority of this Act, or offers or gives a bribe to any officer or person in connection with his power or duties under this act, or being such officer or other or person, or being such officer or person demands, solicits, or takes a bribe in connection with his powers or duties under this act, or otherwise obstructs the execution of this act, shall be guilty of an offense and shall be liable on summary conviction before a parish court to a fine of $500,000. That's $500,000. Or to imprisonment with hard labor for 6 months, or to both such fine and imprisonment. So you might be fined $500,000 up to $500,000, or be imprisoned, or you may have to pay the $500,000 and be imprisoned for withholding information, for giving false information, for bribing any officers under this act, for assaulting, resisting, or obstructing the duties of officers under this act. Yes? And so I believe this provision illustrates the importance of officers under this act, Quarantine Act, being allowed to carry out their duties. Because if a quarantine officer have to step out of an office to enter a community or a residential premises or commercial building, something serious is happening. And COVID-19 is serious. Juanita says, look at what happened to the Diamond Princess crew, with over, yes. None of the dock imports wanted to, yes. Right, so she's speaking to the cruise line off the coast of California that just couldn't get anywhere to dock. Nobody would allow them to dock. And that is because it was suspected that, that is because persons had the virus on it, yes, on ship there. But okay, Sadie saying she can't manage no more jokes. She get a whole lot of it on the farm. But we have to laugh, Carlin Cooper, I think, wrote an article in another medium, in which she says that laughter is a good medicine. And in these trying times, we still have to do a little laughing, eh, Sadie? I agree with you. Now, any person who is guilty of any other offense against this act shall be liable on summary conviction before a parish court to a fine of $500,000 or to imprisonment with hard labor for 6 months, or to both imprisonment and fine. Yes? So, if you have come in contact with anyone with the virus, and the health officers, the quarantine officers, or anybody who is empowered under the act to visit and make investigations, if those persons show up to your door and you are satisfied that they are who they say they are, don't obstruct. Don't resist. Don't give false information. And don't refuse to give information. Because we can't control this virus without the input of everybody. Everybody have to play their part to make sure that we control this virus. Yes? Now, Section 12 of the Act says, it shall be the duty of every constable to enforce. It shall be the duty of every constable to enforce using force if necessary. only if it is necessary, to enforce compliance with this act and with any order, instruction, or condition lawfully made, given, or imposed by any officer or other person under the authority of this act, and for such purpose any constable may board any ship or aircraft and may enter any premises without a warrant. Let me say that again. And I see my co-host joining me on the WhatsApp platform. What is that, Cassidy? I blind, you know. Oh. I need to give it to you around here. Okay. My co-host, please call again, please. I believe we may have missed that you were calling the line just now. But let me repeat, folks. An officer may enter your premises without a warrant in these times, because these are not normal times. These are trying times. And so a constable is authorized under this act, where it is believed that the health of the ordinary citizen is being jeopardized, may enter without a warrant. So just keep that in mind, everyone. Hello?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, my beautiful and wonderful co-host. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, and good evening to your listeners. I'm listening to you, and I said, boy, quite interesting.
Quite interesting, yes.
Yes.
How have you been coping?
I'm coping. I'm not panicking, but I'm concerned.
Yes.
Especially because what is being said is that if you contract the virus and you have underlying issues, then that is where you might meet your demise.
Yes, like our Cassidy wouldn't survive at all.
Cassidy going to the gym and lifting and pumping some iron. They're still.
Mm-hmm.
But
he says people like me now we're wholly unfit, eh?
But I want us then, I'm not an expert, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not calling your program to give any doctor expert or so on. But let us just be careful and let us just wash hands.
Yes.
And make certain that we but I go up mushy. I don't know how husband and wife are managing now, and girlfriend or boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And sweethearts, I don't know, because certain things you can't stay away from.
Mm-hmm.
But as it relates to quarantine, I'm happy that you're pointing out to persons that if they are quarantined and try to quote-unquote escape, it's a criminal offense.
Yes.
And we should, although I know being quarantined must be difficult because you're away from loved ones and friends. And if you care for your loved ones, you'd want to stay by yourself to see to it that they don't contract this virus.
Nobody wouldn't have to tell me if you're quarantined,
Look here, man.
I would do it by myself.
Listen, I want to do it, but I'm poor and I have a shoe and start again. I wouldn't want to see. And so, it is good, Mr. Chambers, that persons know that by law to try and escape or to breach any of the quarantine act, it is indeed by itself a criminal offense.
And I've just pointed out to them that a constable can enter any residence, any premises without a warrant under this act.
That is how serious it is.
Yes.
And I know you have a lot more to cover, so I won't stay. But finally, I want to say, and I'm not in politics any at all. I've never been and don't want to be. But I personally want to commend this government, Mr. Chambers, the updates, the fact that they have kept the public abreast. I really want to commend them. I see the effort. They might not get everything right, but I do see the effort. And so I just, whatever time I said to somebody that one of the safest ways to stay away from HIV is to pretend that everybody that you meet up have HIV. And so you're going to be cautious and use a condom if you tell yourself that everybody is well. No. How I operate now is that I see that everybody I come in contact with, have COVID-19, and I want persons to do the same with me.
Yes,
So in so doing, you keep yourself safe.
Yes.
No touching, no sneezing, no coughing. You know, my first time I thought Chambers and you sneeze and somebody said, bless you.
Yes.
Well, let me leave this now with you. Don't sneeze in public, or you might get a cough.
I was telling someone that I was in St. Mary the other day at one of our homegrown establishments that has expanded to other parishes. And someone was saying that they didn't feel well, and you saw half of the room made a sideways step. Half of the room.
I want to thank you. I have not deserted you all. I have a...
But it's all right. I deserted a few much weeks now because of circuit.
Well, you see, so we're balancing the books now. But since I was pregnant with Antoine 15 years ago, I contracted, I don't know how I came with asthma. And so from time to time, I have asthma attack. And I claim it. But the fact that it is what they consider an underlying problem.
Yes,
I decided to self-quarantine 75% because so far I still have to be up and about for certain reasons. But I have self-quarantined, so I am kind of mostly at home.
Okay.
And so that's why you might not be seeing me for a little while, but I am still around.
Yes, man. With anyone with respiratory underlying illnesses must take extra precaution. Extra precaution.
If you are looking at my vehicle, when I'm going in my vehicle, I'm beard. I'm going to come out my beard and I'm going my beard again. Wash hand, wash down steering wheel, wash everywhere.
Yes.
And I've always been a clean person, but this has only allowed me to be more aware. I don't know, go home with the dirty clothes, go sit down on bed and lay down on the tea and the dirty clothes because you might just be transmitting something that you don't want to.
Exactly.
Anyway, I'm not holding up the program because I see you have 7 minutes left. But thanks again.
Thank you for calling.
God bless you.
All right then. Good.
Okay.
Right. So as my co-host says, but I still want to look at a little more here. Section 12, subsection 2 says, any constable may arrest without a warrant any person whom he has reasonable cause to believe to have committed any offense against this act. And there endeth the sections under the act. Now there's a schedule that is attached to the act, and that a schedule gives definitions for a number of words from A to V. It speaks about what should happen when ships arrive from foreign ports. It says the master schedule, section 4, part 2, section 4 of the first schedule says the master of a ship approaching the island from a foreign port shall ascertain the state of health of all persons on board, and shall prepare and sign a declaration of health in the form in Schedule A. And if a ship's surgeon is carried on board, he shall countersign the declaration. Yes? And every ship arriving in the island from a foreign port shall be visited on arrival in the island by the visiting officer. Remember, we spoke about a visiting officer earlier. And the master shall thereupon surrender to the visiting officer the declaration of health, and present to him for inspection any other ship's papers which the visiting officer may desire to inspect. So I really don't understand what was so stringent about our regulations, the schedule here, that the cruise lines found too rigid. I don't understand it at all. And in fact, it was said that, the person was just experiencing a bout of the flu. Well, hello. The last time I checked, COVID-19 the symptoms are just like the flu symptom the last time I checked. And so to say that someone is just suffering a bout of the flu is not enough to allow that individuals or individuals who may have come in contact with that individual to enter our shores at all. It couldn't be. And so there are things that the ships must do if they want to enter our shore. And I believe they must adhere to it. And the visiting officer is authorized to put to the master and to the ship's surgeon and to any person on board the ship all such questions as he may deem advisable for the execution of these regulations. Ask them question, man. Section 7 says no person under the regulations, no person other than a pilot or his apprentice or a person acting in execution of these regulations shall, without the general or special permission of the health officer, board a ship coming from a foreign port before the same has been granted permission, and the master shall cause all reasonable steps to be taken to enforce the provision. Yes. I'm looking up, folks, a particular definition of a word that I saw there. I see. All right. And so these regulations are here to ensure that we are protected. Yes? Now, before any person other than a person acting in the execution of these regulations leaves a ship arriving in the island from a foreign port, he shall furnish all such information as may be reasonably required by the visiting officer or by an authorized officer, including information as to his name, state of health and origin, and information as to places recently visited and his destination and his address there, and shall, if so required by the health officer or an authorized officer, complete and sign a certificate of origin and destination in a form from time to time approved by the Quarantine Authority. Yes. So this is not something that the Minister of Health just decided to pick out from the top of his brain. It's in the regulations to the Act, under the first schedule of the Act. And these are things that are required. And so before anybody complain, what they should do is go and look at our legislation. Have a look at it. Because we have a duty to protect our people. I too want to commend the government for the action that they have taken. I was heartened by the various press conferences. I was heartened by the amount of information that was released. I was heartened by the active measures that were taken, effective and decisive measures that were taken to ensure that there is no community spread. And I can only hope that they will continue in this effort unabated and unafraid to ensure that we are all protected. I want to thank everyone who has joined us on my Facebook Live, on our WhatsApp platform. I want to thank you, and I hope that you will join us again on Wednesday of this week when we continue to have a discussion on the legislations that support the actions being taken by the government in light of the COVID-19 virus. I want to thank my sponsors, Native Audio Stage and Entertainment, Braham's Texaco, MT Landscaping Services at Francis Lewis Boulevard in Queens, New York City, at 347-840-4623, That's 347-840-4623. To our contributors to the program, Toys Nails Shop number 6, Rosemary Plaza in Morin Bay, St. Thomas. And they can be contacted at 876-426-5066. That's 876-426-5066. And to Errol Barnes from Baltimore in the USA, thank you for your contribution to the program. Everyone, I wish for you a safe and peaceful evening. I hope that you all will take precautions to ensure your health stays in good stead. Have a wonderful evening and walk good.
Native Audio Stage and Lighting, now offering stage, lighting, and truss systems for your small